Beautiful day here in Charlotte. Good day to try to make something beautiful. So this project is kind of a whim. I have a plan for the things I want to build in video, surprisingly enough. Um, but I had this notion and I just wanted to build it. It's kind of a shaker sort of pinwheel thing. I just had a notion. And of course, I've done some drawings, I've done some SketchUp options and studies. And so I'm going to forego making the prototype and just try to build it and see how it comes out. Um, this ability to have an idea and then build it is a huge luxury for an architect. You see, most of the time I design things that other people build, and they take years to get built, and sometimes don't get built at all. The New Belgium brewery that I worked on from start to finish was 4 years. So having an idea and being able to come to the wood shop and make it real in a matter of days is really kind of amazing. So the plan is to make this end table out of cherry with a blackened walnut kind of inset shelf. Fairly simple build, but I think it's kind of elegant. So one of these is not like the others. I clearly screwed this one up, started to cut it on the wrong side. Just a moment of loss of concentration. I gained an appreciation for kind of the opportunities of repairing wood from Thomas Johnson antique furniture. I don't even like antique furniture, but I love watching that guy bring things back to life. And the way he can repair things is just amazing. So once this is all dry, I'll cut it down and you'll still be able to see it if you look for it. That's it for tonight. I have a one major screw up policy and I call it a night. So I made an end table and it had tapers that went basically in two directions. So I had this notion, what if the tapers went in 4 directions. How would that work? How would you make that happen? And would that be interesting? And so I worked with that and kind of realized that a pinwheel arrangement was the best way to do it. And then the next thought was, instead of a rectangle, a square. Somehow pinwheels want to be squares in plan. And I immediately started to think, well, that kind of sort of feels like a shaker table. So I call it a shaker table, more or less tongue in cheek. It wasn't that that's what I was trying to do. I just kind of recognized that the path I was going down kind of felt like one. And I like shaker stuff. It's very clean and beautiful. So the challenge with an actual shaker table is it usually has a fairly thick leg that's tapered in 2 directions. And I was working with 3/4 of an inch that's tapered in 1 direction. So when you looked at the total height, this became very, very flimsy. So I started to think about the top structure of these kinds of tables. Typically there are a structure in the top and then the legs go down. And I started to think, well, what if that structure moved down so that the distance between the floor and the leg was not so great? And then I could actually extend the legs up to support the top. So I was kind of excited about coming out and finishing this repair this morning. But there's something beautiful about just a good repair. It's not perfect, it is what it is, and it adds some character to the piece. Really gotten intrigued by the idea of a beautiful repair. There's a Japanese word for it, but I don't remember what it is. This, for example, is my great great grandfather's hand plane. And of course, it was broken and it had been glued so many times that glue just wouldn't work. So I had to patch a piece of wood in here. And of course, sand this side. But I use somewhat contrasting wood, and I think it's really cool. So I had to take a trip to the woodworking store to solve some problems. I bought this because I thought it would be so cool to be able to make my own dowels. But after a number of attempts, I ended up with this and this, which is just unacceptable. So I made a design decision, which is my time is better spent on other things than making dowels. And a manufactured dowel is good quality, not very expensive, so why not just buy them? And I can then allocate the time on some other thing that would increase the quality of the project more. That may not seem like a design decision, but allocating your resources, I think, is absolutely a design issue. The other substitution was I had ordered these figure-8 fasteners online, and they turned out to be really poor quality. Now, would they work? Would they do the job? Yes. Are they hidden? Would no one know? Yes. But I would know, and I would just rather work with a better piece of hardware. You see, in my day job as an architect, I have to make compromises on quality all the time. So I reserve the right to be obsessive, crazy, and focus on quality in the woodshop. The good news is, I think I'm going to like the piece. The bad news is, I've totally screwed up. Um, these holes are supposed to be here, so they make this connection. Here, they're supposed to be here. So that is a major screw up. I don't think that's going to be a beautiful uh, patch. I don't think it's adding character. I think that's just a screw up, and I'm going to have to make all four of these parts again. It's Saturday, and it's a nice day. I'm going to get a beverage and just chill. So then this structure thought, well, it'd be nice if that was a shelf. Maybe there's. And so the joints are similar in a way to the cube joints, and that it's two pieces of wood but jointed, then another piece, the leg that extends, and dowels that go through. That's how I ended up with this design. It wasn't really a matter of looking at an image of a shaker table and trying to imitate it. It was just kind of following a design path and realizing it had a similarity, maybe. Not sure how you can be truly creative if you're just imitating images. this is the first assembly, sort of mocked up. Um, I like it. I think it's cool. I like the proportions, in general. I like the piece. This has clearly become a prototype, and it was probably stupid to think I could do this without making a prototype. So that just means that there are changes that I want to make that just can't be made in this one. One thing I did because these faces are not absolutely 90 degrees. I sanded this with the hand sander, and you can throw things off when you do that, so that probably wasn't a wise idea. I started to think, well, I'll just leave a little kind of gap here, but I don't think that's the answer. But one reason I don't think this is a great idea is the dowels that will ultimately go into this piece will not be in the center of this board, and it just wasn't really the design, so that's probably an indication that this is not the best solution. What I do think I'll do to kind of save this particular piece is cut some dados here. When I cut those, then I'll know that they are straight, and it'll give this piece a kind of a place to live. So it seems like these things always kind of look worse before they get better, but I've gotten everything straight and true. Um, these dowels sink all the way in here. I left screws in here with plugs because when this panel expands and contracts, I want these joints to be able to just kind of move. Um, so it's kind of ready for finishing. The thickness of this, because I made this dado, is not the same as the thickness of this, but I'll fix that in the plans. So here it is, the shaker end table. I'm really happy with it. I think it's beautiful. I love the proportions, and I do kind of like the pinwheel legs and the little shelf. I like it a lot. I think this would be a fun project for people to build if you don't make a whole bunch of mistakes, if you pay attention to, say, a set of really good drawings. Um, but I do these things to learn as a designer and a craftsman, but to just learn You see, if design is related to making things, I don't really understand how you can, know design without making things. So I do these things to learn. And what I learned in this was I shouldn't rush. It's a lesson I've learned before and I apparently need to learn again, but rushing uh, just creates mistakes. I thought, like so many people in situations, I've got an image of it, I've got some basic dimensions, I can just figure it out as I go. I don't know how many houses are built that way, um, without real sort of thought as to how it's going to go together and what the process is. We do that all the time. We think we're going to save so much time and money. Um, but in this case, I made so many mistakes and it took so much longer to make this. And I wasted so much wood. I mean, look at these things. These things are beautiful. Nice pieces of cherry, but they're essentially firewood at this point. George Nakashima is cussing me because I didn't really honor the wood. If I would have done what I should have done, which is make a prototype, figure out the process, make good drawings based on the prototype, then I would have a real beautiful finished product. What I kind of have here is in between a prototype and a finished product. It's not really good enough to be a finished product. I had to really get aggressive with a lot of the sanding, which deformed some of the parts. So I wouldn't say this is a really well crafted thing. I think I would have taken the same amount of time to make a prototype of this and then make a final than trying to cut corners and make the prototype and the final at the same time. So that's what I learned. I hope that's helpful to other people. And I have a suspicion I'll probably learn it again because we're all kind of tied to working in the fastest, most expedient way, and moving forward quickly has such a draw, and it's really hard to slow down and do things right. But all that said, still think it's beautiful, and I think it's pretty cool. So, thanks for watching.